All right, what's up, everybody? You've got Scott Leese here with a longtime friend and business buddy, Michael Lindstrom. What's going on, Mike?
What's up, man? I'm so excited about meeting with you today, man.
Yeah, this I'm pumped. This is our first real pro collaboration of sorts. We've kind of kicked around the idea for a long time. Still a working title, but we're thinking about, like a Lease and Lindo, Lindo and Lease type podcast where we just talk a little bit about business, about life,
Yeah.
about fatherhood, about whatever. No topic is really off limits. And we thought a good way to pilot test this podcast would be to interview each other,
Yeah.
try to learn a little bit more about each other, ask us some things that we don't know about each other, and just kind of see where it goes. And maybe this episode produces some good content, and we release it at some point in time. Maybe not. Maybe it's just for us. But yeah, that's what we're up to today. So
Love it.
you ready, man? Rock and
Wow.
roll.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
All right, all right. My very first question is a random one, but it's like appropriate as we kick this kind of thing off. Okay. I want to know what your walk-up song is. Think about a walk-up song. You're a sales guy, you're a speaker.
Yeah.
Same way, a pro baseball player has a walk-up song, right? They start pumping it out. I want to
Yeah.
know your walk-up song, but a little bit deeper. It's like it should be a theme, right? For it represents some chapter in your life, like your impact, your legacy. And I'm curious if it's changed, if it was 10, 20 years ago, if it was something different to now, or it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And then what's your exit stage left song? You're like,
Yeah.
I'm walking off into the sunset retirement kind of song. So that's where I want to start today.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Mine has evolved. It's funny. I was just having this conversation today with a mutual friend of ours, Mr. Scott Oakley. And I was watching Instagram and they were showing a riff of how the song Eye of the Tiger
Oh
came
yeah.
about. So Stallone called the band and said, I need a riff. I was trying to get rights to this other song, but I can't do it. I need you guys to create this song from nothing. So I saw this whole story and I'd never seen it before. And I thought,
Wow.
my gosh. So I sent this to Scott because forever, I mean, you think about the .com days, everything way back to even when you and I met, even when we did like board breaking back in the day, that's all I would ever play was Eye of the Tiger, man. That thing was like 15 years, right? And I still love the song, by the way. Every time they hear the song with the guitar, right, I just get pumped up. So, but I had to evolve. I realized there's a lot of people as I get older, those people don't even know that song, which is
Yeah, they
sad.
weren't even born yet.
I know it just blows my mind. People are like, who sings that? So
Yeah.
I evolved it. So I still love the song. I went to Lose Yourself, Eminem. Love that song.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
Lose
Yep.
Yourself was kind of like a time in my life when I used to believe that about myself. Like I was an up and comer. I was young in the industry. People didn't know who I was. And I had to challenge myself and ask myself, I was ready for the moment. You get your one shot. I mean, everything that he sings, that was a really big one. Still love it. Now I do it more for when I'm doing stage work. It's more for the show. I mean, it still means something. I love Jay-Z. So Jay-Z in Lincoln Park,
Mm.
Numb, right? Can I
Yeah.
get an
Yeah. Yeah.
encore? It's called, encore. Can I
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
encore? And he says, Jay-Z says, thank you, thank you, thank you. You're far too kind, right? So it plays very well into the audience when I play
That's a
that, but
good
I
one at the
get more of a
beginning.
good
Yeah.
reaction when I play that. And I would say on the outro, there's a couple things I do at the end of events that are kind of more emotional events. I have people write things down where I create the audience mood. And there's this the story of my life. The story of my life. It's one of
Yeah. I know
the
what song you're talking
yeah,
about.
yeah.
It's
It's
a
one of
Green
the
Day. There's a Green Day song
yeah.
that
There's
says
that one, but
that.
there's the one with the hip hop bands. I can't remember. I can't remember the name of the singers. That's one, and there's another one that was one of the singers that was on American Idol, and it's really about his dream. I'd have to play it back, but the story of my life. That's I love that one because what's your story? That's the name of my book. That's one of my favorite
Sure. Sure.
questions that I
Yeah.
always talk about.
Yeah.
So the story of my life is probably my outro because it gets people thinking about things more in a realistic state. It's not a pump up song. It gets you thinking.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now I'm also thinking about "Story of My Life." That's like a line from a Social Distortion song, if you remember that
Oh
kind of
yeah.
punk band from the '80s and stuff
Oh
like that.
man, you're bringing me
Yeah,
way back, man. I mean, you're talking. You have to remember, I grew up in the '70s and the '80s, so I love when I
yeah,
see TikTok and Instagram videos of some of those songs because there's, this to be true. Songs they say that olfactory smell triggers memory more than anything. Because I guess when you're in, I guess the blastula phase, when you're like an embryo and you're beginning, your first sense that you create is your sense of smell when you're in the womb. So a smell, like I could think of a certain smell reminds me of my grandfather. Soap, it's usually like Old Spice or
Wow.
something, right?
Yeah.
But a song is right there, so auditory. So anytime you hear a song, it just triggers it back to. So that's a great question, man. Well, I got to ask you
Cool.
back, man. What's your do you have a intro song?
I think a lot about the intro song, and I can't ever seem to land on one that's like this is the one that makes sense all the time, you know.
Yeah,
But it's probably like Natural Mystic from Bob Marley because it
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of builds. It like kind of starts off slow, and it's just the beat and the rhythm and everything. And if you put it on later, after 30 seconds or so, all of a sudden it gets loud.
yeah.
And there's a little bit of a metaphor to that as I really kind of just grew into, I think, who I was going to be. And I started a little slower than other people.
Yeah.
And then the outro one, I'm a little bit of a downer. If I have like a drug of choice situation, I'm not like the uppers guy. I don't need more energy.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't, let's be real. I don't need more energy. I tend to skew towards like slowing down. So
Yes.
I always there's a song from Alice in Chains called Nutshell.
Oh my
And
God.
it's
Yeah.
like it's really like emotional, painful acoustic
Yeah.
version. That's one that I've thought of before that would be like, man, that's like kind of sad. It's like going away. If this is not like a celebratory, I'm in retirement kind of song, it's like a funeral kind of song
Yeah.
is where I go. So
You know,
those would be my
like
picks for right now.
songs like that, like there, I always give grief to my buddies. I like that song, "The Reason." Who mistake?
I think I
I'm
know the
not
song you're
the
saying.
perfect person.
Person.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason is you. It's a love song, right? He's talking about this woman. But there's so many times in my life where there was like a girlfriend back in the day, or maybe when I'm getting in a fight with my wife, but I think about my kids because it's the reason that name of the song always ties back to what I always talk about purpose, right? The reason why you do something and the purpose for you do something. But I do love those kind of songs that kind of have that slower, maybe melodic, but it's got that emotional impact, maybe in a way that's emotional. I like that
Yeah,
stuff.
it hits you. It hits you. You
That's
know.
right.
You brought the kids, so that takes me to my next question,
Yeah.
and we'll cover all this stuff a million times over, I'm
Yeah.
sure. But I just spent a couple days in Colorado with my kids. We were looking at different colleges and stuff. I was telling you
Yeah.
earlier. It led to conversations about, what do you want to study and what do you want to do with your life and all this kind of thing. And I asked them, how do you explain what dad does?
Yeah.
If your friends ever ask you like, what does dad do? So my question to you is, how do you explain what you do for a living to your children in a way that resonates with them and maybe even inspires them in a way to consider sales
Yeah.
or business or professional speaking and motivation and the things that you've done so well.
Yeah.
um, how do you kind of like talk to them about that, or what would they say about
Yeah.
what dad does? Is dad get like if I ask your kids that question, would they be like, oh, my dad, just gets in front of a bunch of people and just talks to
Right.
them? Like what would they say, you think?
Yeah, it's definitely an evolution. It's funny you should ask that because I'm in my office studio right now, and I was redoing a lot of my art and pictures on my wall that my kids have given me, and I two pieces that they had given me when they were younger. Remember when they were younger and they had to fill in the blank? My dad's favorite pizza is
Oh
for
my
food is
gosh,
pizza, right?
I remember
It's a
those
fill in,
things. Yeah.
and they said, "What does your dad do for a living?" One of them said author, and the other one
Okay.
said consultant, which is true. I mean, they're all
Both things are true,
well, it's true,
right?
but if
Yeah.
right now they wouldn't think of me, my last book came out what 9 years ago. That What's Your Story? So right
Man.
now that's not really an identity that I hold, out there to the world. Consultant is so vague. You and I laugh about that because consultant, okay, is that your way at a cocktail party to tell me you don't want me to know what you do, or are you bullshitting
Yeah,
me?
that's
Like
right.
it's a BS answer. You know, I both know that. But now that they're in high school and they're more mature, Colt's more, he's my freshman. He's more articulate. He'll say, my dad is a speaker. He writes books, but he's an executive coach. He's actually pretty good at it. My older
Hmm.
son, he should know better because he's been with me longer. he's like, oh, my dad's in the world of like motivation, and he'll kind of do the thing like, who like Tony Robbins is. And we actually go to school. I don't know if he told you this, Dean Grazioso. Dean, who's one of Tony's right-hand guys, is a friend of mine, and our sons go to school together. Now, Dean's a big name. Dean's been around for a long time. He used to do infomercials. He still does all the mastermind stuff with Tony Robbins to this day. So he's out there in the public domain. So people, at least in our community, they know who Dean is. So for Rhett to explain, you know who Dean is, right? Well, my dad's in the same kind of business that Dean's in.
That's a pretty sophisticated answer for a high school kid.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's much better than I think my kids were like sales. It's like just one word, non-descriptive.
Well, this was only until this year, my man. Let me tell you, back in the before a year ago, it was like, I don't really know what my dad does. He does some kind of consulting. It's real simple. When my wife, she's a judge. I mean, everyone knows that. So it's a simple answer. What's your wife do? Oh, she's a judge. There's no deductions to be made. You don't have to surmise what that means. When you say consultant, you have to ask all these questions. When you say author, what do you mean? He writes podcasts. What is he on ChatGPT?
Science fiction or whatever. Yeah.
Does he write books?
Right.
So no. So I got to ask you back though, when you're talking about the kids, what is that stress that you're going through right now? I mean, I'm not at that stage yet. We're starting to look at colleges because we're hovering a little bit behind you. But when you think about parenting and stress where you're at this juncture of life, what's the big stress that you have right now?
Man, it is partially juggling like protectiveness with recognizing their need for independence and autonomy. It's relinquishing certain levels of control. Like both my kids are going to be driving. One of them is driving. He's 17 years old. The other one has his permit. Those are big milestones where all of a sudden they're in control of where they go, and God knows what decisions they make and who gets in their car, and never mind all the other idiot drivers out there and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
But we're looking at colleges like pretty heavy for my oldest. And we've done we did a tour to Oregon. We did a tour to Colorado to look at a few different places. And it's like, those are far away, man.
Yeah.
Like I live in Austin, Texas. Right.
Yeah.
So
it's no joke.
I'm going to screw this stat up. Unfortunately, I know, but there's some stat that's like, you spend 90% of the time you're going to spend with your kids between 0 and 18 years old or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm probably screwing the percentage up. I'm going to have to fact check this.
Yeah,
but it's some like massive number.
That's pretty close. That's pretty close.
Yeah. And it's like kind of wrecking me a little bit,
Yeah. Oh,
and I'm thinking, okay, at least the older one's going to go live someplace far away. And I'm like, shit, this is like stressful, man. And, I don't know what their economic future is going to look like. It's a serious question. We were talking about like, what kind of things do you want to study? And we're having conversations about like, what's a AI proof, safe kind of job? And what will things look like in 5-10 years? And I don't have the answers to these things. And it's a weird feeling like not being able to provide your child with guidance that you feel is on point and accurate. And I have to say to them, like, fuck if I know, man. Like I got a guess, but my guess is as good as yours. Maybe your guess is better than mine.
Yeah.
Right. All those kind of things. And then there's the financial side. And I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when you were in town visiting. But, you're talking about out-of-state tuition at let's just call it like a normal, public institution, like University of pick whatever state.
Yep.
Right. It's 50 grand ish, 50 grand, just tuition a year.
That's right.
So let's hope they get through for 4 years.
Yeah.
That's $200K. And then line up whatever else, living expenses and all this kind of stuff.
Fraternity, sorority. I mean, that's real life. That's real.
So, I'm doing some math, and I'm at the age where I'm looking into the future for like, okay, maybe I can retire one day, not anytime soon. But then I start doing the math, and I'm like, $250K for 4-year degree times 2 kids, that's $500K. And I'm like, I guess I got a lot of work to do. So all of these different feelings and emotions are kind of hitting me at the same time. and then I'm gonna be what do they call it? Empty nester?
Yeah, empty nester,
How
man.
the hell did that happen, dude?
Time flies.
I have
I remember the
I got
day I
3 years
met you.
left.
I remember
I
the
got
day I
3 years.
met you. So now you and I are sitting here on a podcast talking about empty nesting. This blows my mind.
Yeah, how's that possible, right? I think I was 20. I had just turned 27 when I met you.
Yep.
So that's 21 years. It's basically 21 years ago, right? And yeah, so those are all feelings and things that I'm grappling with right now for the first time that you will be grappling with
Yeah.
shortly.
Yep.
And everybody out there who's listening, who's older than us, gone through this, they've all grappled with this stuff
Yeah.
as well. So I've been having some interesting conversations with people about, think about this, do this, don't worry about that, and all
Yeah.
this kind of stuff.
You want to
So
really freak yourself out, man? A couple of my buddies, they started a app. This is when our book came out. We were looking at different apps to potentially partner with to get, the concept of the book is asking questions of your father. That's the whole point. Download your history of your family and download it to your kids, journal it, write it, record it. And they turned me on to this company called Wonder Dads. And you can pull them
mm,
up. They're great. I'm not affiliated with them, but they have a website. You can go on it and they have a counter on there. So you can literally put in the age of your kid and it'll tell you how many days you have left until they leave
that's
to go off to college. It's
that's
scary.
scary. That's scary, man. That's the countdown.
It's a
That's like
countdown.
that's
Dude,
the apocalyptic clock or whatever they call that.
Y2K. Remember the Y2K
Yeah,
clock?
man.
Oh my
Oh
God.
my
So I
God.
look at it every once in a while. I don't have it on my wall because I don't want to freak myself out every day. But the one thing I do like about it, I've always been a countdown guy for myself to create urgency. One of my favorite quotes that I made for myself through my old Robbins guys was urgency is the breakfast of champions. Urgency is the breakfast of champions for myself. But I don't want to go fast, man, the next 4 years. I want to slow it down.
Yeah.
So having those countdowns and that stress that you have of not just what's going to be the future for the kids, that's always going to be impending as a father. But then you start thinking about the now. If you think about the weekend, you're like, man, I got 2 full days with my kids. What can I do with them? Instead of saying, well, I can just go do whatever I want. I want to spend quality time because I only have 2 days out of however many days the counter says I
Yeah.
have left. Scary
And
stuff.
that's a total 180 from the way that we've spent the last few decades of
Yeah,
urgency as the breakfast of champions to like, slow down
that's right.
and appreciate this thing. That's a hard shift. Like you can hear
180.
the gears in the car, you can hear it grinding.
Yeah, that's right. It's a whole
Like
180.
slow it
Yeah.
down. Yeah.
I feel you, man. I
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, man. It's now I got me all thinking about this stuff.
We're getting each other emotional our first time here talking about the kids.
Well, we'll stay on this topic a little bit. I mean, if your kids thought about going into sales and business, or I guess even you probably talk to lots of younger folks in all your speaking engagements and coaching and stuff like that too. Well, what's one thing that you think the younger generation entering sales needs to hear, even if it's like a harsh truth that kind of contradicts the current worldview or popular narrative or whatever? Like,
Yeah.
give the younger generation some hard truth right now if they're thinking about getting into the world of sales and
Yeah.
business and entrepreneurship.
The one thing that's really the first thing that comes to mind that's tough is overcoming this new belief and by the way, I just saw this the other day. I was listening to Grant Cardone. I don't really know him from afar. I watch his stuff, and Grant was talking about he would rather his daughter or whomever just go ahead and skip college. I'm like, well, yeah, you're a billionaire and you're going to hand a business to your daughter. That's a
Yeah.
little different than the
Yeah.
average human being. But he's out
Right.
there proselytizing that you don't need to go to college. So people are on TikTok or social media, like my kids may hear that and say, well, Grant Cardone says I don't need to go to college because he's in sales. So that's number one belief is don't get away from this thing about, hey, go to college because you know as well as I do, Scott, going to college. Okay, I was a poli-sci major. I am not a political scientist. Never was I a political scientist. What I got at college was my relationships, the life experience, the fraternity brothers that I gathered, for example, relationships beyond just friendships, connections to other people, which got me to my first, real opportunities. Unequivocally, if you're going to go into sales, quit listening to all those people out there say that you can go make money in real estate tomorrow. True. You don't need a degree. You can go work for guys like him and not have a degree. That's true. I really believe the majority of people, you go to college for 4 years, you build those relationships, build the base, go in, knowing you're going to get that out of it. That's number one objection I think that I'm trying to push people to is stay with that belief of going to college. But the second part, big, is it's still a relationship game. I don't care about technology. I don't care about what AI is going to do. The game, it's mano a mano. You still have to shake hands. You still have to be social with people. Maybe not as much as it was, even before our time. The days of martini lunches in New York City on Wall Street. Those days are not
Yeah.
here anymore. I get it,
Yeah.
but it's still a relationship game. So having the skills to be able to have social couth, look someone in the eye, be able to have a conversation like this with people. I'm more impressed with people when my son's peer group, when they're 14, 15, 16, they stand out to me at this age when they're having a conversation with me. The majority of
Yeah.
kids, and this is a great private school, and these are smart kids. And some of these kids cannot even look Mr. Lindstrom in the face and carry on a conversation. But the
Yeah.
ones that do, this
They
guy,
stand
they
out now.
stand out. They stand out. So
Yeah.
that's a big thing. Keep working on the stuff that we're talking about. Go old school, man. Be around people. Be a good conversationalist. Learn to ask powerful questions. Understanding body language. All these things have gotten lost because of technology. I think that's important.
Yeah, I agree. It's almost the socialization piece is almost the most important thing beyond anything else now. Learn how to be an adult, figure out what you like and don't like, figure out how to interact with people more and more, especially since, at least in my area, I watch most high school kids and they're not interacting with each other in this look people in the eye kind of manner at all.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I was telling my kids just the other day is, what are you in a rush to go work for?
Right.
It's not like working is amazing all the time.
Right.
It's stressful as hell. It's frustrating as hell, especially when you're young and a worker, right?
Oh,
You
yeah.
and I have a certain amount of freedom as of right now in what we do, but it wasn't always the case.
Right.
You rewind the tape 20 something years and you got people older than you, more experienced than you, telling you what to do, be here at this time, be here at that time, do this or else. There's a pressure. I'm like, what do you want to rush into that for?
No.
I'm giving you a get out of jail free card for a few years to go have fun and learn stuff, right?
Yeah. Oh man,
Yeah.
that's so true. I can think about the guys I went to college with at UC San Diego, and we didn't call it this back then. Gap year, that was not a thing. I mean, it wasn't a thing when we were in school. If you took a gap year in 95, 92, 93, it's like you didn't know what you wanted, or you're just going to go screw around and go ski.
Yeah, that was like a lowercase L.
Yeah,
you're taking like a small. It's not like a massive loss, but it's like you're a little bit of a lowercase L.
That's right. That's right. But
Yeah.
now I
Different.
like it. I like it. If someone graduates college and has the ability to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to spend a year doing something that's fun, maybe go backpack Europe for 3 months, go visit family from around the world. It's part of your roots. I'm cool with that. I genuinely am, but I only have a few friends that did that. And I used to think that that is an L, but now I can see, and I've always believed this in my 20s because I was lucky. I had good coaches and mentors that told me the same thing. It's like, go fail as much as you can, go see as much as you can. So here I'm, graduating law school. I went college to law school to Tony Robbins. So I didn't have any gap years, but when I was with Robbins, to me, in my mind, a lot of people don't know this, Robbins was like an extra education because I really didn't know what I wanted. Because I wanted to be a sports agent. I wanted to be like a federal prosecutor, but I didn't love that concept. Once I learned what it really was and how little money you really made doing it. Yeah, you had the title and the prestige, but the money wasn't there. And I was kind of a money guy at that time. So when Robbins comes along and says, hey man, we're going to pay you 6 figures. You're going to live in 5 cities a year. Everything's paid for: your car, your phone, your fax machine, right? And you're going to have this killer commission, and you're going to live in 5 cities you've never even been to, and you're going to be with amazing people. In my mind, that was like, oh wow, I got at least another year before I have to grow up. So here I am now, 26, and I haven't really quite figured out what I wanted. And at that point, I didn't think that's what I was going to do. But guess what? It got its hooks in. It got its hooks in me, and I never left. But I agree. It's in your 20s that you have to go out there, try a bunch of different stuff. Fail as much as you can. And now, even the cities, I thought when I looked at the cities I was going to be living in, the first city was Philadelphia. Or no, it was Atlanta, Philly, LA, San Francisco, New York, Miami.
And you're probably learning what you like, what you don't like in each of those places. Could be the people, could be the weather. Who knows?
That's right. And it was on his dime. and I'm getting paid at the same time to live in these cities for, 6 to 8 weeks at a time. So
Yeah.
I just happen to be fortunate to have that job to do that. Most people can't find that kind of a job because they're not out there. But go travel, go see stuff, take your gap year, and take dad's advice, right? You got to get out of jail free card. Take advantage
Yeah.
of it, man.
Yeah, definitely. Take advantage of it. Use me. I'm fine with it.
Hey, so I have a question for you. I was thinking about this because since we're on this kid stuff. For you, what was your very first job, paid job
Oh my God.
ever as like a kid? Ever? You can even take me back to a 12 when you got first paid to do something. What was it? And what'd you learn from it?
I'm pretty sure I was sort of assistant coaching like a tennis camp in the summer. I was probably like 12 or 13 years old. I grew up in Chico, California. It's like 3 hours north of Sacramento, or excuse me, hour and a half north of
Yeah.
Sacramento, 3 hours north of San Francisco. Um, yeah, and I wanted to earn a little bit of money, and I was at that racket club all the time playing as a junior and stuff like that. And they had this like little kids kind of camp, and they'd always pull in, teens and preteens and whatnot. So I was like one of the youngest, counselors, whatever the heck they were called. I couldn't even tell you how much I got paid. I'm sure it was almost nothing. But yeah, I just hung out there, few hours during the day in the summer. That's the first thing I can think of where I was paid by, a business of
Yeah.
some sort. Yeah. Yeah. What about you? Do you
Yeah.
remember?
So mine was a baseball umpire. Yeah. So I was a
Oh yeah,
baseball.
good
I
one.
love baseball. I was a
Good
baseball
one. Yeah, yeah,
kid.
yeah.
From T-ball all the way up to the day I graduated, I played baseball all the time. I mean, I played other sports too in high school, but baseball was my jam. And I remember when at least in my perception was, I think at that time in California, if you were like 15 or 14 and a half, whatever it was, legally, you could actually be employed. It wasn't under the table. Like, you had odd jobs, getting paid cash, but an actual job was being an
Got a
umpire.
check. This
That
time you
was,
got a check.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
great. I got to sit behind the catcher is 10, 11, 12-year-olds just getting pummeled with the ball. You had my ump gear.
Yeah,
Back
yeah,
then, you
yeah.
had the big old black square that you'd wear,
Yeah.
sitting behind. It was just one umpire calling balls and strikes. But you know what? It taught me a lot. I had to deal with parents, and they're not as unruly as they are now, believe it or not.
Yeah,
But
but
you're
they
dealing
they
with
they weren't great probably still though.
that. I mean, but here I am, 15 years old. I'm just trying to make a little bit of money and call a game for 2 hours for a bunch of
Yeah.
11-year-olds. And I got Tommy's dad over here chirping at me, and I got some coach over here cussing me out because I missed the call at first base. And
Yeah.
and, and now I look back as an adult, and I still see these people in the stands like you do. And you're thinking, what in the hell, man? Like these poor umpires, they're just out here.
Oh yeah.
It's in Scottsdale. It's 100 and 110 degrees in July. These guys do not want to be in 111 degrees at 2 o'clock umping a game in the middle of nowhere, but they're out there doing it, and they're not making a ton of money. So clearly, there's a passion there. They love the game of baseball, and we're over there yelling and screaming at it. So now my spin on it is much different. But my first foray, I did umpiring throughout high school, so that was a good two
Yeah.
or 3 year run. That was awesome.
Well, I know what you mean. I mean, I ref soccer right now.
Yeah.
So I'm out there refereeing 6A high level high school soccer games and like youth club level games and stuff.
Yeah.
And man, the parent,
Brutal.
oh, so much worse than the coaches. The parents are so much worse than the coaches.
What?
And a
What's
lot
the
of
worst thing you've heard? Give me an example of the worst thing that you heard from a parent for real.
the worst thing that I heard from a parent, cussing out like a teenage linesman. So I heard it. It wasn't yelling at me. I was the center ref. And he's cussing out like a 15-year-old kid,
With the flag.
right? You don't know what the fuck you're doing or learn the fucking rules or whatever. And I can hear it. So as soon as I hear it, I stop the game. I walk over there and I'm not super proud of this, but like fairly aggressively, I'm like, hey man, you want to yell at somebody, yell at me. Don't yell at this kid. And if I hear you talk again, you're out of here. Right. And so,
Yeah.
of course, the guy like pops off and he's like, OK, well, fuck you then. You're the one who's screwed up. I'm like, great. And then at that point in time, I'm like, you're out of here, dude.
Just run
So
him.
I go, yeah, because in high school sports in Texas, there's an administrator, like an AD type person who's there on site. And if
Got it.
there's anything too unruly, I'm supposed to go find the administrator, right? So I'm like, hey, administrator, that guy right there. And I go tell the coach, I'm like, you have 5 minutes for that guy to vacate the premises or you forfeit the game.
Wow.
So I don't mess around, you
Good.
know, with that stuff, especially when it starts with, kids basically being yelled at and abused like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then, and
You're
then
you're
you, and then you got to wonder, it's like, what's going on at home with that kid? I don't know who the kid was of that dad, but you could figure it out by the end of the game who he's walking off the field with. And I always look at that
it's not
kid.
good, man. It's
I
like a
look at
walk of
that poor
shame.
kid and I think, oh man, that kid's
It's the
got no,
walk.
no chance. That kid's got no chance.
It's the walk of shame, man.
It's
That I've
horrible.
seen those kids walking off the field with that parent, and I'm thinking to myself, how does that kid feel? Then I'm thinking, how do all of that kid's teammates feel? And they're all going to talk to little Timmy about all that stuff.
Yep.
It's a mess, man. It's an
Yeah.
absolute mess. Well, you're a big sports guy,
Big time.
and let me see if I get this right
All right.
because I think I remember this, and I've given you shit about this before.
Let's go.
You're a big sports guy. You're like a homer of a fan.
Oh,
You're a Yankees fan, a
oh
Cowboys
no.
fan, a Lakers fan, a
Oh man.
USC fan.
You are
This is
killing
like
me right
the
now.
most homer sports fan ever, right? And one of our old colleagues, Bill Miles, is now COO of the MLS soccer team, the
That's
San
right.
Diego
San Diego,
FC,
baby. Yep.
right? So here's my actual question. If you could be the owner of a sports team, what would excite you the most about that? And what would you do differently in
All right.
terms of how you run the team?
All right. So first of all, let me answer part one. So you're right.
That's
Okay.
where you defend yourself.
No, I'm not going to defend myself. I'm a Cowboys fan. That's true. And I
I
and
got
I
that one.
basically
Okay.
quit being a Cowboys fan like 5 years ago. I don't yell and scream at the TV anymore because they suck. I still have an affinity because my dad liked them as a kid. So my dad liked the coach Tom Landry, who he thought
Yep.
was an amazing coach, which I agree with, even in the
I
NFL
agree with
history
that.
books. So I
Yep.
grew up in Modesto, California, which didn't have big networks, big teams, right? The closest we had at the time were either the Rams or the Niners or whatever was within the state of California, which I didn't like. So I just followed what dad said. So I'm like, okay, I'll be a Cowboy fan. I'm a Yankees fan. Okay. I'm a Yankees fan and I'm hardcore Yankees fan. Still am. Went to the World Series last year. Got our butts kicked by the Dodgers. And we had people that we knew that grew up in the Yankees organization all the way throughout. Nick Johnson actually was his dad and my dad were in the military together in the 70s. So there's reasons that are for personal reasons there. Basketball, I've given up on a little bit. I'm just not an NBA fan in general after Michael Jordan, who I was a big fan of, like anybody my age. It's just not the same. And just being real. So I don't really love basketball anymore. But being a West Coast guy, who do you pull for back in the day? It was the Lakers. You pull for the Lakers. If you're from the Desto, back then you weren't pulling for the Golden State Warriors. They aren't the
No, they were terrible. They were
they
so
aren't the
terrible back
Warriors
then.
of today. They're the
Yeah.
Warriors of, and
Yeah.
if you don't read it, go read the history books, 70s, the 80s. So yeah, I give you credit. You called me out on that one. It's funny because my son Rhett, he's a big baseball guy and he's a Yankee fan because I brainwashed him. I mean, he wants to go into sports management actually. And one of the things
Okay.
we talk about in sports management, if he was going to be a GM or in personnel or recruiting or scouting, and he's gone to some of these programs, I've been able to be around some of these modern day MLB guys that have been around for a long time. To me, it's the development of the character of the young kid that
Mm.
juices me. It's not selling a big billboard in center field, making a ton of money at the baseball
Yeah.
park, or figuring out how to do social media to get the players all looking in the Instagram. There's a whole team that does that. That doesn't juice me. But to be able to go down and find someone in Modesto, California, right, that is 15 years old that no one really knows about, and to be able to tell that story one day because you scouted. Most of the biggest GMs in MLB started off in scouting. They
Yeah.
started off somehow in scouting, worked their way up to management, and they've progressed. You usually don't just come out of law school and go and become a GM. It just doesn't happen. You have to start off with a progression. And I love that part, especially in this day and age because of social media and these websites. Now these kids are tracked since they're 11 years old. I mean, I can go on any
Right.
website right now, Game Changer. I can
Yeah.
look
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
any kid. I wish I had that when I was
All their stats, all that
I wish
stuff.
I had
Yeah.
that. I would have been amazing. But
Yeah.
that to me juices me. And I'm trying to convey that to Rhett, because he gets caught up in the baseball and the sport. And I'm like, buddy, I'm telling you, scouting, learn the eye of watching a kid on the field. It's not how he hits the ball. It's when he goes to the dugout. How does mom and dad treat him? The body language. It's what we talked about with
I
sales.
mean, you're
It's
looking for
going
you're
back
looking
to
for,
the old school, being the
yeah.
traditional body language. It's a people sport.
Yeah, and it's what's between the ears
That's it.
matters so much, and it's talent recognition, right? And
Yeah.
pattern recognition. As you do it long enough, you start to pick up trends of these certain players were this particular way, and that works. And these players had this kind of approach, and that 6 times in a row didn't work,
Yeah.
right? And picking up on that kind of stuff. All right, all right. Well, that's a pretty good memory for 20 something years. We haven't
That's
talked about who your sports teams are in God knows how long.
yeah.
By pretty good memory that I
Yeah,
remember that.
I'll give you credit.
Yeah.
And by the way, if I were to spin this camera around, I've got the 360 link, which I could. You got some Yankee stuff over there, some Cowboy stuff over there. So
Too good.
there are things in my office. Of course, that's my boy Steve Prefontaine. He was
Oh yeah,
badass runner at University of Oregon, died too young. God
yeah,
bless him. I've always
yeah.
been a big Prefontaine fan. One of my favorite movies is Without Limits. Tom Cruise produced that movie. Billy Crudup played him as the lead actor. I'm excited because Colt's getting into cross country right now as a freshman. And I've been talking to him a little bit about this guy
Oh
right
yeah.
here. Prefontaine
Sure,
had a
sure.
belief.
Yeah.
His belief was to give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift. That's a great quote, man. To give
Great.
anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift. So yeah, I'm a big sports fan, and I like to pull it not just from traditional sports, even runners, but that's a good memory, man. I give you credit.
Hey, that's a good quote from Prefontaine. Considering I think he was only 24 when
Can
he
you
had his
believe that?
accident.
Have you seen that
Yeah,
movie? You got to watch that movie.
I have, but it's been
It's a good one.
years,
There's three
years.
movies. Prefontaine is another one, and then Without Limits. That to me,
That's
Donald
the best
Sutherland,
one.
Donald Sutherland plays the coach. Great story. Tells you the story of how Nike was built in Oregon and the same storyline. It's a great movie, Without Limits.
Yeah. Let me
You know,
take you let me take you the opposite direction then.
yeah,
Talking a little bit about some people that we've looked up to either for their accomplishments or their mindset a little bit. The opposite of that to me is who's somebody that you consider a hero or a leader or someone worth following, idolizing, whatever you want to call it,
yeah.
that turned out to be a jerk and your image of them got shattered somehow. And how did that impact you?
Oh man, I've had a few of these. We were just talking about this the other day, and I would say I have a few answers, but my number one answer would be Pete Rose.
Oh, okay.
Pete
Yeah.
Rose. My remember I told you the whole Nick Johnson story. My dad went to
Yeah.
the military,
Yeah.
so a lot of people don't know Nick Johnson's uncle is Larry Boa. Larry Boa played for the Phillies with
Yep.
Mike Schmidt, Steve Carlton, that 80s championship team, 1980. So they have a baseball pedigree. So when I was a little kid getting into baseball, when we jokingly called him Uncle Larry. Uncle Larry played for the Phillies. He would play in San Francisco at Candlestick Park for a 3-game skid. And we got invited to go be with the Phillies at the hotel while they were in town. So I got to meet I got to meet Mike Schmidt, who I love, Steve Carlton, who I love, and I got to know Pete Rose as a little kid. Now you have to remember, I'm 8 years old, but I had his baseball cards. He was a badass. I mean, I looked up to Pete Rose. He could do no wrong. He was Charlie Hustle. My dad, whenever I got hit by a pitch in baseball, my dad would yell out on the field, "Don't rub it." Pete Rose wouldn't. So here I am, 10 years old. I just get beamed in the back. And I got my
Yeah.
dad yelling in the stands, "Don't rub it." Pete Rose wouldn't rub it. Charlie Hustle, right? So I had this whole paradigm of Charlie Hustle mowing down Ray Fosse at home plate in an all-star game because he's just a hustler. He only knows one speed, right?
Yep.
And all these years, I got his autograph. I got to meet him several times when I was a kid. Boom, way up here. Monica and I are in Las Vegas. True story. Monica and I are in Las Vegas having some fun. I believe it was New Year's that time. I knew he was living in Vegas. He was struggling financially. He was still excommunicated from MLB. We're walking through one of the casinos. I got like a beer in my hand. We're shopping, having fun, maybe New Year's Eve or whatever it was. And I see this sign up there. It says Pete Rose live signing autographs. And Monica's like, "Oh no." And there's a little bit of a line. And I'm like, "Monica, I got to do it. Got to do it." I had a couple of beers in me. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I wasn't
Yeah, you're
hammered.
juiced. You're fired up. Yeah.
But I'm thinking, I got to do this, right? So I don't know if it was MGM or whatever, where they have the signings where they come in for the day, make money because he needed money. And I waited in line. I paid the extra $100 to get a picture with them and get something. And oh man, I felt like a little kid, Scott. I was like reliving this time in Candlestick Park when I was 8 years old as a grown ass man about to meet Pete Rose, like again. So you get your turn in line and you shake his hand and you talk to him and you sit down next to him because you're about to get a picture. And I'm being honest with you. I had only had like 2 beers. I was not drunk by any stretch of the imagination. I was just so excited. But I'm thinking from his vantage point now after the fact, he's got to get everybody through there, right? And I took like a minute of his time. I go, hey, Pete, I met you back in 1980, Larry Boa. He's like, yeah, Larry, of course. I said, Nick Johnson. I was like, oh, yeah, Nick's, and he was nice. He wasn't like jumping on it. He was just giving me the fact, yeah, yeah, of course, I know who it is. I go, man. And he basically cut me off. He goes, so do you want to get a picture with me or not? And he's a total dick.
Oh,
Monica was
dude.
standing back there. This is before cell phones, like you take because you have a professional photographer. And I was so upset, put off, shattered. I literally looked him in the eye and I go, no, I don't. And I walked
Oh,
off.
man.
I walked out of that place like a little kid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was practically in tears. Monica goes, what just happened? And I'm like, I said, it's too much to unpack. I said,
Yeah.
it's too much to unpack. I looked up to this guy like
Yeah.
my
Like
whole
childhood
life.
just got shattered.
And
Yeah.
by the way, I got a picture on my wall. It's over there. It says Sports Illustrated. It's the cover of SI. I bought this years ago, where he was one of the few that signed where it says, I'm sorry, I bet on baseball. I have one of the only sports signed, authenticated pictures that he ever did that for is in my office, is right
Wow.
there. So he's in my office. He's in my life still. So I've always had this thing about that whole moment. It shattered me, but I still believe he should be in the Hall of Fame. Thank God they finally changed the rule that he's now dead, and they said he's going to probably be inducted the next year or two. But it
Yeah.
shattered me, man. It shattered me.
Oh, man. That's a perfect story. I'm sorry that you went through that, but it's a perfect story for my question.
Oh, jeez. That was off the cuff. I didn't even know you were going to come at me with that one,
Yeah.
man. Now you're bringing back Pete Rose examples on me, brother. It's so good, man. It's
Oh,
so
too
good.
good.
So I have a question for you. I intimated this one time when we were chatting a couple weeks ago because we think about brands and how you're known. It doesn't matter if you're a baseball player and you're in a motivational speaker. The things that we're joking about how our kids view us. I always think about misconceptions. Like I knew you for 21 years ago, and I've watched you go through this metamorphosis, and I now watch you doing amazing things on LinkedIn, social media, becoming an influencer, having an impact, a voice. I mean, people, I see you post something that's got a take, and I can go back in an hour later on LinkedIn. It's like, wow, there's a lot of very important people looking at what Scott has to say. They're either jousting with each other, disagreeing with you or not, and you're very engaging. You're very staunch about your stance. And I've also known you for a long time. So my question to you is this: what are some misconceptions that people have about Scott Leese?
Yeah. Um, One of the misconceptions is that I'm kind of a jerk or yeah, or just like rude. I have this conversation with my surf and sales partner, Richard Harris, all the time because people think that he's a nice guy and I'm the asshole. And it's actually the opposite, the exact opposite. Richard on the surface seems like kind, soft, gentle, or whatever. But once you get past that layer, like he's very gruff, very aggressive. And I'm kind of the opposite. I'm a little gruff on the outside, a little grouchy. I'm born June 30th, so I'm a Cancer. So it's like a perfect analogy. It's like I got a hard shell and a soft underbelly,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, so that there's that misconception is part of it. And then I think that breeds another one, which is I'm kind of emotionless. And I play into that quite a bit. I think I try to be very kind of old school and rub some dirt on it type of thing and not to show my emotions too much and all
Yeah.
that. But I'm actually pretty sensitive, and I don't really like that about myself, but it's true.
Yeah.
Some of that is maybe my 50% Italian blood. Some of it is you know just kind of who I am. So I think people mistake me sometimes for somebody that can just take blow after blow after blow and not feel it, or harsh banter like doesn't get under my skin or whatever.
Yeah.
But it actually does sometimes. So when you get a following like I've amassed,
Yeah.
yeah, I say this sometimes, but I'm like, I could give away $1 million today on LinkedIn, and some motherfucker would come at me because he'd say, it's not $1 million because you're not covering my taxes or something like that. Like, I get trolled no matter what,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And you would think after all this time, I could just let those things go and never have it affect me,
Yeah.
right? But sometimes it affects me.
Yeah.
I don't like that it affects me, but it does. So I would say that that's a huge misconception, is that I'm like kind of a jerk and standoffish or whatnot, and I don't have emotions. And I think it's flipped a little
Yeah.
bit.
Let
And
me
I
ask you
don't know
that.
if you remember, but I showed you that side early when we first met.
Yeah.
We had this like offsite retreat,
Yep.
and we were asking, you facilitated this conversation, and we were talking about heavy shit, and I broke down.
Yep.
I had just come off of 4 years in the hospital, and I shed tears in this like offsite. It's
Yeah.
like my first like offsite executive meeting, and I'm showing tears, and now I'm thinking to myself, what the hell was I doing or whatever, right? But yeah, yeah, that's a big one, I think.
That's a big one. Let me ask you this. Do you care what people think?
I do, and I don't want to.
Yeah.
I there is a large part of me that sort of doesn't give a fuck and says what I need to say and what I feel, and I do it kind of anyways. All
Mm-hmm.
right. So it's easy for people to be like, oh, he doesn't care what people think, like, at all. And on some level, I don't care about what they think enough to silence myself,
Yeah.
but I care enough about what they think that their response or reaction can and sometimes does impact me,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And I aspire to the level of like, well, I don't care what they say. It's not going to impact me in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But if I'm being honest, I haven't figured that all the way out yet.
Yeah. I have a distinction that was taught to me, and I think I'm pretty good at it. I don't have it licked yet, but it's been a while I've been practicing this. And somebody called me out on this. I don't remember if it was Dan Lear, my mentor. It might have been Dan, someone that I looked up to that, when they coach me, it's like, you're getting coached, just shut the F up and just listen to what they say.
Yeah.
And the bet, he walked me through this exercise. Hey, when you grew up, what did your dad want you to do when when he grew up? And I'm like, oh, my dad wanted me to be a Major League Baseball player or whatever. And he goes, yeah, but you didn't. And so he's showing me evidence in my own life that no matter, these are all people you look up to, but you didn't really care what they thought because you did whatever you were going to do anyway. So I'm like, okay, keep going. I'm following. So the distinction was this: you arrive at, we don't really care what people think. Some people do, and maybe you do. It's really, you care how they feel, and there's a big
That's
difference between thinking
yeah,
and
that's
feeling.
good.
So
That's good,
when
actually.
when I got that and I learned that, I had to practice. It took me a bit, several months when something would happen. And now with social media, it's made that belief system has massively helped me. Now I maybe I don't put myself out there far enough. Think like a turtle. My neck doesn't stick far enough as much like maybe you do, where you're getting that much hate. I stick my head out far enough, and I do get hate. Don't get me wrong, but even when I get that hater, I just laugh. I'm like, man, I don't care what you think. I don't give a F what you think. I don't even know you, but it still impacts me. And then I go back to feelings. And then I catch myself. I'm like, I'll give you a quick example. First time I ever did national television, live national television was on Fox National live in studio with David Osman. David Osman was still a host on Fox. It was during the '08 elections, and everyone's still like jockeying who's going to be a candidate. They brought me on to be the color guy to talk about public speaking and perception. Is someone a good public speaker? Are they persuasive? I'm not the guy that's supposed to be the Republican. They have a Republican up there, they have a Democrat up there, and they have a political analyst person, and then they got the color guy. Well, David Ausman, if you watch him or you get to know the guy, he's ADD, man. Like he's gonna do whatever he's gonna do. And I didn't know Dave. I was nervous as hell. I sat in my hotel room all day long, prepared for this 8-minute live hit on national news. Everyone back home's waiting for this thing, and I'm freaking out all day. And they got all my makeup. I'm caked on, right? I mean, I got more makeup on my bald head than I ever had in my life. And the studio's freezing cold. It's intimidating. You got cameras everywhere. And I had done live TV before in local, but never national live, never, or recorded. It's easy. And David comes up and he goes, Mike, are you clear on what we're going to ask you? I'm like, yeah, that's great. He goes, remember, you're at the end of the table. We're going to hit you with this. Great, great, great. So he goes live. It's actually on my YouTube channel. We could clip it, maybe put it in later. He goes around the table and he's doing everything as he should. And he gets to me and he goes, Mike, I mean, come on. I mean, this election, isn't it really going to come down to one thing? And I'm like, yes, yes, yes. He's going to lob it to me. It's going to come down to abortion, right?
Jeez.
And I'm like, you can look at my face on live TV. I'm like, Dave. And I go back to my training. Never answer take a breath. Go back to your talking points. Like I had been trained. So I knew in this moment, I'm going on my Navy SEAL media training. Trust your instincts, Mike. Don't go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And I said, Dave, it doesn't matter. People don't care about the issues. People don't care about the issues. Perception is reality. They care what they see on the television. And then I went back to Edwards. Is a good looking guy. Looks like Tom Cruise and McCain. So I went back to my talking points, but oh my God, dude, I had this 20 seconds. It's like 5 seconds in reality where it seemed like the whole world, 5 million people were watching me for 5 seconds going, what is Mike Lindstrom going to say about abortion? Right. I mean, my God, I'd never been put in this situation in my life. And then I get off the air. I'm kind of pissed. I'm taking the makeup rag, wiping all the makeup off my face. I'm kind of storming out of the studio, kind of pissed because they didn't really follow the script, but hey, that's media. Now I know that. I get on my phone. True story. I'm getting a million messages, texts. Dude, you did great. That was awesome. Kick ass. I got so many emails coming off my website because they did the MikeLindstrom.com or whatever on the lower third. And I get this one a-hole who I've never met in my life. And it says something like, you guys are all the same. You can't answer the question. And he's just calling me out. I mean, fair enough. And it affected me. It affected me. All the positive messages I got.
Yeah.
One message I got.
One troll.
Who I didn't know from anybody all night. Then we went out, had fun, had a nice dinner, celebrated the whole thing. Monica, it was great. I couldn't believe that I paid so much attention. It was in that moment. That's, I think, maybe when Dan had coached me, like, dude, you're giving too much energy to things that don't matter. You care what people think. Start caring how people feel. So we'll have to find that clip. We can run that back because I know I have it on my YouTube channel where I was asked that question. And that really impacted me, though, on live television, that it's not really what people think. It's how they feel.
Yeah, I need to work on that. I've got that same issue sometimes where I get 100 positive messages and the one negative one is the one that just is like a pebble in the shoe.
Yeah.
It's just a crux. I don't know what that is. I think what is that about us?
I think it's ego. I think it's ego and competitiveness.
Yeah.
For me, when I get like that, I still get, some people get me riled up. I'm not on Facebook anymore much. But I have some friends from my hometown that have been on there forever. They're on there way too much. I mean, they're Facebook junkies, even at 52 years old, which blows my mind. And they try to say comments or try to get at me, whether it's politics or whatever. And I don't engage, but every once in a while I'll engage that person just for fun. Cause I know them, just to piss them off or get people knowing that we're bantering back and forth. But it's only Facebook. It's only so many people watching. But then I go walking, I go, why does that bother me? Like, I don't even know this MNFer. I haven't seen this cat forever, but it's like, I want to win. I want to win the argument. I want to be better than. So I think it's the ego and the competitive and the one-upsmanship that I think is inherent in us as competitors that probably triggers that a little bit.
Yeah. It's a blessing and a curse. It's part of what got us to where we are. But
that's exactly right.
Perhaps that no longer serves us as much.
That's good, man. That's good stuff.
Yeah. Wait, listen, we're getting kind of towards the end of our pilot episode here. I have one fun, lighthearted question for you.
All right, go for it.
and then you can ask me something if you
Yep.
want, and then
Yep.
we'll
Yep.
kind
I
of
do.
wrap up.
We'll have
Okay.
an outro.
All right.
Yep.
You are, I think, a pretty practical guy. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm wondering if there's a conspiracy theory that Mike Lindstrom tends to believe, despite all the evidence, that you secretly find yourself entertaining. And what part of it is just making you go, that one could be true. What conspiracy theory out there do you kind of pay attention to a little bit and you're curious a bit and you find yourself going, that could be true?
Well, I'll tell you that I'll give you another one, but you almost hit it. In my head, I think I'm the funniest MNFer on the planet. In my head, like I am so witty. My dad is a very sharp-witted guy. He is cutting even to a fault. He's a smartass. He's the guy that will do things in public growing up or even to this day. He wants to get a rise out of people. He likes to get a reaction out of people. So when friends would come over, freshman year, I can give you countless examples of things my dad would say that probably nowadays would get him in trouble. Honestly, if
Yeah.
he said that to a freshman kid and that kid went home and told its parents, they'd be like, Skip Lindstrom said what? Like he used to
Yeah.
say some pretty wide open stuff, and he would admit this. I maybe a little too far off the scheme that we can do some later, but I grew up in that. So I always have my dad skip in my head at every turn. If I my kids are now picking it up from me, like when I'm driving the street and I see someone off in the distance that's like a weird character, my son will look at me like, Dad, I know what you're thinking.
He's waiting for it. He's
Yep,
waiting for
I know what you're
your
thinking. Just say it, Dad. Just say it. And I'm like, but what here's what I've learned though. My wife has taught me this. A lot of my, my friends and colleagues that I respect have told me I need to dial it back. I mean, because it's almost like I have to create this editorial stopping point, a pause, as we call filters. I have a lot of filters in my head, and I think that filter has been stronger and stronger as I've gotten older, but it's gotten more loud and loud and loud in my head. But I just don't say it sometimes. So yeah, I think that was a big one because I know a lot of my friends, even I went on a guys trip last year to New Mexico. These guys have known me since like sixth grade and beyond. They're all Modesto guys, went to high school with them. These are like my core friends. I call them the fellas. And they were around me for 3 full days. And a couple of the guys, in front of each other, like, Lindstrom, what's up with you, man? Are you getting older? And I go, I'm just mellow out. I'm mellowed out, guys. I'll be honest. Cause I was always like the ringleader. I was the guy shaming people on the email thread. If you told me 8 months in advance you couldn't make a fellas trip, I would rip you
you're
up.
hammering him. Oh yeah,
I'm
you're
like, what
hammering
do
him.
you mean eight
Yeah.
months in advance? You already know you can't make that weekend. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Like I was
Yeah.
that guy. And they all know that. And now I'm not that guy. There's other guys that have taken my place in that regard. I'm not the ringleader anymore. I hang back. So I think that a lot of people saw me from a young age being this extrovert type A, president of the class, all these things growing up. And even in my Robbins days, people were like, yep, there's Mike, motivational Mike. We would have guessed he would have been a motivational speaker. That's about the path. So that persona is still inside of my head, right? In my mind, in my heart, in my soul. It's just I've added this little bit of filter of like, you know what? I don't want to be seen as always coaching someone. I don't want to always be seen as the snarky guy or the smart ass cutting guy that maybe my dad instilled in me. So I think that's a big one because I know there's a lot of guys that maybe talk about me behind my back or say, dude, Lindstrom's still the same, bro. He has not changed. He's still a bro. He's still got that thought in his head. He just may not say it, but he's editorializing things a little bit more because he's gotten a little bit older.
Mellowed out a little bit.
A little bit. I
Yeah.
don't know, and I hate to say that maybe society has caused that, or that I've succumbed to wokeism, and I'm trying to be PC. I don't think that's the influence. I really don't. I just think it's just a different part of me, and maybe if I didn't have sons and I didn't have like them watching my moves all the time, and I was just a single guy and I didn't
Yeah.
have any accountability, I might still be a lot that way, because I don't have, a pair of eyes times two looking at my moves and listening to my snark, so maybe I've
Yeah.
tempered that part as a father as I've gotten older, but it's still there, brother. It's still there. It's still there. I promise you. All right. I have, well, let me hit a quick one. Cause I wanted to ask you this one. This is an easy one. And then I'll get my big final question. Good solid book. that you'd recommend? Like you recommend this book to everybody. It's kind of your go-to book. That's you. It doesn't have to be something you're reading now. It can be right off your bookshelf or one you
Yeah.
claim. Second one in vein with it is favorite movie all time. Favorite movie
No,
all time.
easy. Okay.
All
Okay.
right, those. Let's go with those two, and then I got
All
my
right. All
final
right.
question.
The there's a million books that I could cite, but there's a real simple, easy, fairly short read. It's called Toughness, and it's written by Jay Billis, the former Duke basketball
Yeah,
player, and I don't know what network he is now, but he's been on ESPN and
yeah,
God knows what, March Madness, all that kind of stuff. And it's all about the Duke culture and the Krzyzewski culture, and it's this next play mentality, meaning you do something good, so what? Next play, we're focused on the next thing. You
hmm
do something bad, so what? We're focused on the next thing. And I read it years and years ago, and it's surprisingly, I just found it like super applicable to sales and business and work and career. And I don't think it's really written for that purpose
yeah,
whatsoever, but it really resonated with me, kind of as an athlete. And so I find myself recommending it a lot to people who are, from a sports background, to people who don't like reading like PhD level
yeah,
business analysis kind of books and stuff like that.
yeah.
So that's it. That's a good one. It's called Toughness by Jay Billis.
It's good. I've not
Uh,
read that one. You just
yeah.
lied me. I've never read that.
Oh man, I think you'll get a kick out of it. Um, Favorite movie of all time is easy, man. My favorite movie of all time is Point Break. Patrick Swayze, Keanu Reeves, Gary Busey, the dead president, ex-presidents. I think it's got everything, man. It's got a little bit of action, surfing, of course, extreme sports. There's skydiving, bank robbery, which is like a weird, twisted fantasy of mine to be a bank
Yep,
robber
yep, yep,
one
yep.
day. It's got some romance in there. It's great. It's
That's
great.
so
And I'm
good,
talking about the original, the remake that they made, not worth it. I'm talking about
dude.
the original. The original.
You can't touch that film. You got to leave that one alone.
Yeah, yeah.
There's
Gotta leave it
certain
alone.
movies that you don't remake. That is one of the movies you don't remake.
Yeah, they should not have remade it. Yeah. There's so many good quotes in there too. Like one of my favorite ones is go for the register, not the vault. And if you think about that,
Yeah,
right? All these bank robbers, these guys are robbing all these banks, and they're successful over and over and over and over because they just take this cash out of the register. They don't try to go too big. They don't get too greedy. And the one time they try to get greedy and go for the vault, it all backfires, and that's the downfall of them. And I've thought about that so many times over the years, as it pertains to like business and sales. Like you have some prospect that you're talking to, and they're like, well, I want this package right here. And it's like, shut up, salesperson. Say yes, take the money, off you go. And inevitably, there's some sales guy or gal who's like, well, what about this or what about that? And they just like talk themselves out of a deal because they get greedy and they try to
shut
make it
up.
too
Yeah.
big. It's like, oh man, go for
You
the
know what's
register,
funny?
not
Think
the
about it.
vault.
You just occurred something occurred to me. The movie Heat is one of my favorite movies. It's one
Oh
of my
yeah,
favorite movies. I love every character in there. Val Kilmer is one of my favorite. They were stealing a little bit throughout the film, and at the very end of the film, they went for the big
they go
vault.
big.
They went
Yeah,
big, and guess what? They all end up dead. Every one of them ends up dead because they
yeah,
went too big. That's so funny. I
yeah.
never thought about that.
So in an alternative universe somewhere, Mike, we'll be bank robbers, but
Oh
we'll
man,
just little bit at a time, just a little bit at a time.
register. I saw there. I love watching American Greed, the TV show.
Oh, I remember
And I
that
love
one. Yeah,
watching
yeah, yeah.
American Greed because I like crime shows, but I like to watch it because to see how these people think. It's like how you have so much time to think about that. What if you applied it to like real things that you could go, do in real life that
Something
they're actually,
productive.
yeah, halfway respectable, right? And there was this one bank robber guy. I can't remember what it was. The Midwest America because they showed the map as like Ohio, Indiana. He's hitting all these little banks, and that's all he do. His whole philosophy was, and he's being interviewed because you can see him in his jumpsuit. He's already arrested, clearly telling an interview from jail. So the end of the story. He gets arrested during the whole documentary, but he's explaining the psychology. He's like, yeah, why would I go to? All I did was pick a small, mid-sized bank, get a couple grand here, get a couple grand there, and they look at his overall take was something like 28, I don't know what it was, $16 million over the course of 11 years because he
Well,
just went for the register.
yeah, go for the register, not the vault.
I love it, man. I love it. That's good stuff, man. Well, I would go with Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning is probably my book.
I just read that at the end of last year, the first time I ever read
Great
it.
book, great book.
Yeah,
And a
outstanding.
separate podcast, we'll get into meanings and all that stuff. That's a big one. Movies, I mean, Godfather 2 is hands down, not just the direction of the movie, the actors, that who's in it, the storylines, the politicking, the relationships, the being smart all the time, sensory acuity, influence. I mean, all the modern day things that I affix to it. That would be. But if I did a fun one, everyone knows me knows I'm an American Psycho guy. Love
Oh, there
Christian
you
Bale.
go.
Got a man crush on Christian Bale since American Psycho. That's such a good movie. If you haven't read Bret Easton Ellis' book, it's gory, it's nasty. He's a good writer, very good writer, but that movie is all time.
Yeah, that's the all time. I agree. I agree.
All
Good
right.
stuff, man.
Yeah, man.
Well, hey, this has been a lot of fun, man. We're gonna be back here same time, same place next week, I think, right?
Yep, that's right. I'm looking forward to it,
All
man. I
right.
appreciate the time. This has been great.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see y'all next time.
Okay, man. Take care, guys.